Hi everyone. Okay. Now, let's start with BTC. Today is February 17th. BTC is down by 4%. What we'll do is we'll have a quick review on different time frame. Also, we'll look into traditional markets like stock index, commodities, just to get a bigger picture in mind. Keep the bigger picture in mind, what is really happening in capital market and also in crypto. And then I think we'll also unfold another session which will be more like pulse call. Yeah. And then probably I'll also comment on something which I posted. That this part will be BTC part will be recorded. The remaining part where I'll be talking about pulse or my other strategy won't be recorded. Okay, so the call will continue, but recording will be limited to BTC and um, some commodities and stock index. Okay, so let's continue. So this is 12 hours. 12 hours give me intraday insight. This was a nice move, and last 2 days, like especially until yesterday, it was okay because maybe I should, I should go back a little bit. So this is where we called out bottom. Okay, and then it worked out pretty well so far. I know that it didn't. Not all the alts were moving up. Only few of them were. In fact, those which were strong, like FTM, Luna, or Matic, some of them, like real stars, were not even participating or moving up as BTC. I mean, they moved up, but the drawdown was much more compared to a few weeks ago where BTC was sidelined or in a correction. Those coins, were outperforming. In fact, they made new high and all that thing. So some of the alts which were doing really good, they didn't even go up when the BTC started rising. So now the game is not over by any mean. Okay, so this is the first statement I would make is we are on a kind of situation where we have to be watchful about what is really happening. Okay, especially today's move has made me more alert in terms of long-term perspective. It doesn't mean that I'm bare at this moment. There is no need to be, because um, we bounce from here 33k and it is still about 42k. However, this kind of a call is needed for awareness, because things change and things change slowly and we don't realize. For an example, when we called out potential correction or downside move on 62k, around 63k, that point in time there was no reason for to assume that there was a 33k level. But we we track that proactively and always try to be a step ahead. So this is all about being a step ahead in the game. Nobody knows the future. That's the reality. No matter how good anyone is in the technical analysis or any kind of analysis, there is no way to know the future. Otherwise, that person wouldn't be doing any business, or he would be just silent and doing his or her stuff. I mean, why? There is no need. In fact, so in short, nobody knows the future, but we are trying to assess a next step, which is doable in my opinion. And we were able to do it in many occasions. So my attempt, and every time I am able to do it, I try to forget it, because every time it's new situation. right? So I think we as a community, we as a family here, everybody has different style. So I'm nowhere trying to influence anyone's style, but we need to understand both short-term view and a long-term view. Ultimately, it's your decision to make what what makes sense for you. Okay, I'll throw some ideas, I'll throw some approaches, and you will be the judge for your own. From a TA point of view, first I'm going to cover, and then the more unofficial part, unrecorded part would be like what I'm doing. Okay, which is purely based on my personal opinion, not like an advice or something like this. So from a T point of view, we these levels are supercritical S6, S7, S8. This is 12 hours. So 12 hours, what I see here is if I draw a line, very simple line, okay, it has come close to this one. So this is on from different point of view we can look at it. So you will also see some TA approaches when I do, and sometime you don't have to be very technical, but some of you might be interested, so depends on your interest. The 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 key levels are this S6, and this is also a pivot point over here. Okay, so if S6 is broken, then I consider as a warning. Okay, now how you take the warning, as I say, nothing happens overnight, and my I always believe in incremental approach. Means anything you do, whether you buy or sell, I personally do in incremental. Sometimes I do, aggressively, but when I had to explain to wider audience, because there could be some new traders, so I have to stick to some best practices. And I would say a warning sign is where one can think about long-term position. It can be a step to reduce. This can be a step to reduce further, and this can be a step to reduce further, and this could be the last step to reduce it further. So my approach is always simple. I start with different supports, because you cannot say, nobody can say this is the level from where it is going to reverse. However, we have certain points where this is the required level, 50k is the required level. Unless and until it breaks above required level, it is just a bounce. What I didn't like is this move, especially today's move. I didn't like at all. Okay, I like this one move, and then I called out that this is a potential bottom. And before actually this move happened, because from measurement point of view, this was a support that I realized, and then we got a nice bounce, right? And then follow up with this bounce, amazing bounce. But this move, especially today's move, I didn't like at all. It kind of it's I felt like somebody be it's like a roadblock. It's so we are doing really nice. This was nice. This is okay, because this was a first failed attempt, and it was rejected, which makes sense. This was a nice upside move, and then little bit of retracement at S5, which made sense. But this is unacceptable to me. So that's why I'm having this call, and that's why I raised an alert. So see this from this particular trend wise, this is still about this white line. Maybe I should change the color. Maybe dark blue. Still about this. So this is not a concern at this moment. S6 is not a concern, but below S6 is a major concern to me, and below S7 is a potential risk. I'll be updating, so you will have information. Sometime it is possible there can be a spike. So we'll have to wait for day to close. So that's another thing for anyone who is new. So if it is at 40780, sometime it spikes and goes below and then recovers. So what we have to do is we have to make sure that it closes below these levels by end of day or not. Okay. So sometimes, and especially on key levels, there can be some spikes, as I said, which what we call is whipsaw effect, but not necessarily it is like, for example, here it made new low technically, right? Price wise it made new low, but it was just intraday. So this kind of a thing. So these levels are important, but we'll have to see if it closes below this level or just a spike. So this is a tricky scenario, I know, because if somebody is keeping stop loss, they might be stopped out. Now we cannot do much about it when there is a quick spike. However, what we could practically from my experience so far, those who suffer the most, who has only one stop loss, and one of the best practices that I share is you cannot have one stop loss. You have to have multiple stop losses. And because think logically, if you have just one and there is a spike and you're stopped out and goes up, there's no way to protect. And if you don't have stop loss, again there is potential risk. So how would you manage? So logically thinking, what I'm saying is nothing out of box, nothing out of like ordinary. It's simple logic. It's a common sense, in my opinion, that no stop loss is risky. Simple stop loss sometimes can be stopped out, and then you are out of the market. Especially when you are not awake, not online. Assume that you are going offline for 8 hours sleep, and you're stopped out tomorrow morning. You wake up, and then you see the price is up. I saw this so many times when I was new, and I was so frustrated because I felt like left out. And I'm sure this is experienced by many. So there's no simple solution to this thing but to have multiple stop losses. Okay. So I think this point is very important, multiple stop losses. So personally, I would say, in best practices point of view also, you have to scatter stop losses. See where what should be the last stop loss is up to you, how much. And it always, it's a personal choice, because you might have entered here when I called out, you might have entered somewhere here if you are late, and whatever you might be. So different users would have entered different levels, so their tolerance would be different. Somebody might have entered here, but the tolerance could be higher. So everybody has different risk appetite, this different tolerance. So I cannot say what is the right and wrong. There is nothing, nobody can say, but I can share what are the best practices and what are the technical levels. These are the technical levels. What one could do is spread stop losses across the board, and you have to say where I should fully out. And it should be very, decision should be when you are not under pressure. Decision should be when you're not under tension. I think decision should be made now, if not taken. Why? Because when it falls, your mind doesn't work 100%. You're emotionally stressed, and that's not the time where you would think. Okay, so this is about BTC. Now, in reality, hardly anyone uses BTC. Hardly. So, but the BTC has to be used as a measure. Unless there is an exception, you see API 3 right now is pumping. So if you're holding something which is not following BTC, which is not difficult to spot, then you don't have to do anything for that coin. You don't have to assume things that because BTC is going down, that coin must be, you know, reduced. No, you have to see if BTC is down and what you're holding is also going down. Then you refer the BTC level and you may use that to your alt. So this is important. If the each and every alt you should have your exit point, and very simple method as I explained in approach B is money stop loss, or where basically how much you are willing to lose. But you can take a reference of BTC. Say if BTC is fine, probably they will recover if they're tightly coupled. Because if your alt is tightly coupled with BTC, if BTC is going down and your alt is also going down and vice versa, then it is obvious that if BTC keep breaking key level, your alt is also continue to do so. In that case, you have to see both the thing. You each and every alt you should have what is my max limit, what is my tolerance, and that should be your level for for full exit, in my opinion. Okay, that. And but the same time you can refer the BTC, and I'm very proactive in updating BTC. You always, and then you can say, okay, if BTC hasn't broken S6, I can still tolerate my alt losing value, right? And then if it bounces, but then if BTC is also breaking key level, then the probability of your alt to survive is very slim, right? So you have to basically use both BTC and your ultimate tolerance level for individual coin, okay, based on your risk appetite and situation. Okay, now what else? I think I should. These are very important topics. I would say not just technical level or pattern. We are going to cover everything, but this best practice is important. Another best practices that I do is personally. I See, I ended up recording all this, but I don't. Okay, that's fine, probably. Because sometime I cannot separate out, but don't take as advice. Okay, this is being recorded, I know, but this is not advice at all. I'm sharing something what I truly believe in, and I personally follow in this one. I personally don't have a lot of coins when situation is tricky. I end up with one or two coins. It is so easy to manage, and I would typically keep those which are not following BTC if right now BTC is in trouble. To me, I go for swing trading a long term when the BTC is out of the risk, because to me this bounce is not a bounce which is out of the trend reversal. So we'll look into that as well. In fact, in the if you haven't seen the weekly call, the BTC analysis was pretty detailed with a lot of TS stuff in it, where I have actually taken last bull market and how this bull market is developed. Everything is covered. So if you haven't gone through my last week's BTC update, I would I would really suggest you to go through it because there's a lot in it. Okay, and strongly suggest after this one if you have missed it, right? So okay, so basically I would personally keep very few, one or two, because then I can manage it. Especially I would not keep anything when for short, which is going against BTC. I mean, sorry, going with BTC when the BTC is going down like this. Uh, and from a long term, to me, long term, I would go long term when I get when we see BTC somewhere here 50 to 50k level, because this is a good bounce, but this is not a trend reversal. So we are going to zoom out now to explain this. I mean, to understand this, and we'll look into the Bitstamp version which we were following. So I'm going to zoom out to weekly. Okay, did I do something? I think I posted from here earlier. We have a couple of flavors, so let me explain. Same bit stamp chart. but little different drawings. So this was 29K earlier in month of July. Bounce, retraced, bounce, retraced, and this line was maintained. But then this line was breached, and then there was a huge drop, and a bounce happened, but bounce didn't reach level, required level, right? So we've been tracking this for long. We've been tracking this since drop started here, and each time there is a possibility. See, each bounce is a possibility, but the probability of reversal requires certain height. Let me give an example of gravity. So for an example, you throw a ball, a rubber ball. Imagine you're standing, you're holding a rubber ball, you throw, it bounces. Now you know that because of gravity, it is going to go down because it doesn't have its own force, right? In simple example. So you know the nature, that how nature works. However, assume that a ball has some kind of engine, like a rocket engine. Okay, now change the ball to the rocket. The rocket is also a thing which follows gravity. However, it has an engine, a fuel combustion system, basically propels, and then it can go against the gravity, right? Now, however, it has to work hard against gravity up to certain height, and we know scientifically that up to what level a rocket has to go up before it goes to outer space where it doesn't require that push. That's an edge we call horizon, right? Outer space, whatever, 50, 70 kilometers range. And what we expect that we will, when the rocket launches, if you visualize it, we are in the control station, right, and watching the rocket starting, going up, but we are not relaxed until it reaches certain height and goes to outer space. Of course, we will have to see that later there is a problem or not, but the point is, the main thing that we look for is it doesn't go down. Okay, and so basically it if it can reach certain height, then it can go out of space, then you're good. Similarly, I see the same thing when it bounces. For it to go change the reverse to change the trend reversal, it has to reach certain height, and when it started going down, we kept on providing certain height. Okay, and if the height is not achieved, that means it's not good enough for it to make new high, good for outer space in the rocket's example. So if you visualize that, so similarly, technical, this is my approach of doing things, and it has been working pretty well. So there is always bounce, but you have to measure the height of the bounce. If the height is not good enough, you cannot commit. So coming back to my previous point, that personally I would commit for long term when I see there is required height is achieved. Otherwise, everything is fluid for me. Everything is open. Everything is short term. So many people argue about what is short term and long term. If you ask anyone, everybody has a different answer. Somebody short term can be one day. Somebody short term can be 1 week. There is no absolute answer, and there is no answer because it's perspective. It's a subjective, and bull and bear is also subjective. For example, if you track BTC on quarterly time frame, there is no bear trend. There is consolidation, but there is absolutely no bear trend. If you look at 3 months, I don't see any bear trend, but a consolidation. If you look at this like 8-10 years of data, this is consolidation, little bit of retracement after a big move. This is a little bit of retracement after a big move and a consolidation and similar thing. So if you look at quarterly, BTC hasn't faced any bear market in my opinion, apart from some retracement and consolidation. So bear and bull, are subjected to time frame, in my opinion. Okay, so when somebody says I'm bear or bull, you have to be subjective and say what time frame are you talking about, right? So if you are, and then perspective changes. So that's my take. So I don't believe in bull bear, and I don't get into bull bear trend. The way I approach is, if it is going down on weekly, what level is required for it to continue the trend on the upside? So I explained that this is a main trend. This is called counter trend. This is a recovery, and this is again a counter trend of this recovery, which is pretty deep. Now again, this is a recovery within that counter trend, and if this gets required height, then it will escape and go for the new all-time high. Otherwise it will continue with this downtrend, and then this is a critical level, we know that 29K. And then this is the official level. When I say official, means this is a official, people would argue, but I have my own understanding based on my learning, that when there is a main trend and the last congestion is the support, where you can say it's a counter trend. If it breaks below this, if you look at the upside, there is a congestion. All this congestion that you see, this is the last congestion, this is all-time high. When or asset retraces to the last congestion within the main trend, which is this, so this is still, this is called retracement, this is not a reversal. But if this is broken, then it is called reversal, because then you can say it's a bear trend with respect to this main trend. Or I prefer the downtrend. Bear trend is not a right terminology. Anyways, the point is, this is still a big consolidation, a huge consolidation, and there is nothing wrong at this moment. Okay, but I'm just covering wider subject, just in case you are not part of different sessions that I have. So it's always good to recap and see the big picture here, because more you understand what is happening, better you are in position for decision making, in my opinion. And you're not just subjected to 1 day movement, 2 day movement, or one specific local movement here, but you always have a big picture in mind. Okay, so I'm trying to cover everything that is needed. Okay, so point is, so this is broken, then this was a support level where we called out. Now if I look at it, this is a dotted line I added, and right now it is right on that dotted line. To me, this is an edge, because if this is broken and continue, then it can still come down to this level and then go up, because it happened here as well. If it came down here, went up, so I may consider that this candle might be something similar to somewhere here, right? It's not going to be exactly the same, but if you want to relate that there was double bot, this was a retest all the way down, little lower, and then another retest, ugly one. So it is possible that it could come down and retest this level, maybe this level, or maybe higher in this range, right? It is possible, looking at its behavior. So that's why we have different support for different people to take different actions at different levels, right? um, and but ultimately there is no risk to the trend as long as it's above this 29K 28K range. We are not talking about reversal here, we are not talking about end of this uptrend. Okay, whatever I talked about earlier was about preservation of value, because when it comes down to here, what if it goes down and continue going down? What if? Because then you don't have opportunity to reduce or book profit. So it's a judgmental call on individual basis, and that's why I always believe that when you have incremental approach, there is no regret, because if you're reducing in chunk, you can always get back in if it starts going up. So for an example, hypothetically, if it goes down down down, and if you're reducing, and let's say it reaches this level and goes up, you have some cash in hand. Okay, so you can always buy back. Okay, so there's no regret, but it's a part of your planning. I'm throwing some ideas here. One can say, okay, this is not broken, so why should I worry? Point is valid. But then it could go down here, and then one might say, oh, okay, it hasn't broken 28, 29 level, why should I worry? Point is valid. But what if it breaks that as well? Because it has been going down, up, down, up. What if it continues going down and like this? Because this is how it how because nothing happens in one straight line, like vertical downside move. It always moves in step, like a staircase. Okay, it always, so uptrend, up, it's not straight line. It's up, down, up, down, up, consolidation, up, down, up. So when it goes down, it is not going to be different, it's going to be the same thing. So that's why if it has started going down, personally speaking, what is your tolerance level? One has to start reducing. And I'm talking about, not talking about exit, I'm talking about reducing, because this is very important. Many people don't realize, because i- I mean, if you have seen previous bear trend, or downtrend, you would have realized that when it started here, it came down here, 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 and there were lots of ups and down, lots and up, all the way to here, right? So point is, it doesn't go down in one straight line. It never does. So when it starts going down, nobody knows that at here or here or here, this is what is going to happen. But whatever is happening is telling you whether it's going down or up. And then what we can do as an investor or trader, whatever you are. See, I don't believe in trading and investing. It's all about preserving capital. That's another thing. I have my strong opinion that investing and trading is not so different. But typically, trading is short term, investing is long term. Whether it's a short term or long term, in my personal opinion, it's all about what is my tolerance level, how much I'm willing to lose is the bottom line. Because no investment is, people think investment from a time horizon, and I totally don't agree with that approach. I believe that if I have invested $10,000, my profit is, let's say, $20,000, for example. I'm having a balance of 30,000. Now, as an investor, I have good gain, but if it starts dropping, I'm losing my profit. So I have to first decide how much profit I can let go. Second, let's say assume I lose all 20K in my profit. Okay, now I have to decide, should I let go my capital, is the next question. And somebody might say, okay, sometimes, okay, I might let go my capital a little and show some more tolerance. But the question is, there has to be a limit. So it is not about time, a 1 month holding, 2 months holding, 1 year holding, 5 years holding. It's never about time in my book. It's always about capital and preservation of capital. Okay, so again, this is my opinion, not advice. So I don't think from timeline point of view. Some people think from timeline, even target. Sometimes you can estimate it, but I don't. You have to be dynamic, and you have to change if required, because things change. If things change, you have to change your plan, right? You cannot just set things set in stone. So especially further you go in planning, you have to be ready and open about changing the timeline, because things change. It's like from point A to point B, your Google map would show estimated time, but if there is traffic jam, the time is going to be longer. I mean, the duration is going to be longer. Obvious. So point B is not changing, but because of congestion and a roadblock, your journey is delayed. The point B is not delayed. So that's why over time we had to have a checkpoint and say, okay, so that's why timeline has to be changed sometime. We may not change the point B, if but timeline can be changed, and we have to be open about it. And there's nothing wrong about it. we have to be flexible about it. Okay, so I'm talking about upside target. And yeah, so coming back to my previous point about the downtrend starts, and it doesn't say I have started. It never works like that. So we always had to see what are my levels where I am going to read, and you have to stick it. And I trust me. I mean, if you go and five stop losses is not a crazy idea. Okay, if you're thinking that it's crazy idea, it's not. Three stop losses, five stop losses are not crazy idea in my opinion. In fact, it's a good idea. Okay. Um, okay, so let's continue with the technical analysis. I'm mixing different aspects. So this is not a point of concern at this moment. However, if it breaks below this, then it's a major concern, of course, because then this might not be able to hold, in simple words, because there were this was a good support here, good bounce. It is possible that it might come down to this level and retest. So this range is to be watched. If it comes down to this, then it's a big trouble for this uptrend, in my opinion. Let me tell you this. But at this moment, it's not happening, and we'll be watching, so not a concern. And meanwhile, if you think that you want to preserve your value, as I explained, you have a choice to take action. And I shared my strategy. For me, long term means what is the point where it is going to reverse probabilistically, not from a certainty point of view. And that 50 52K level, when I'll be little relaxed and say, okay, I'm not going to touch, maybe I'll add, but I'm not thinking about reducing. But until that BTC level is achieved, uh my I'm not thinking to keep my positions forever. No way. Okay, so again, this is my, I ended up sharing what I'm doing, but don't take it as I mean, do your own judgment. And this is not official anything officially I'm trying to convince you, or impose by any mean. Right. So so far so good, as I said, but I didn't like the way it dipped. So this is clearly a sign that it doesn't want to go up in a straight from here on. Right. Very clear signal. That means now it is the probability of further correction is higher now. Now the question is how deep it goes. So we'll come to know only when it stops correcting. There's no way to know for anyone. We have support level and we are expecting it to react near the support, and I'll be updating on daily basis. If any support require a little bit of tuning, I'll do it, because this science is little dynamic. It's not set in stone. Okay, there are certain levels I can give, but I'll be tuning it. So don't worry. On opportunity channel, I'm telling you, I'll do my best to make sure you're not surprised. You will be surprised only, in my opinion, if you're not in line with what is happening. The moment you in line with what is happening, the shocking part will go away. So if I'm saying the probability of this to go down is higher, and if you accept it, there's no surprise. But it will be a big surprise if you don't accept it. But it's a choice. Okay, there is no mean I'm trying to say you believe in me, right? You don't need to. But my job is to tell you what I'm seeing, right? And what I'm seeing is the probability of further correction has gone up now, right? Unless we see a major bounce and changes, and then we are flexible. See, we are, so that's why we don't tag ourselves. We drive based on levels. For example, when you are, for example, let me give an analogy. You're going for point A to point B, from town A to town B. Let's say it's a 10 miles away. You have assumed there are milestones every mile. Now You may assume that I'm driving at 60 miles per hour, so you know by when you will reach. But what ultimately, mm, the time is not important, your milestones are important. So when you hit fifth milestone, then only you can say you are 50% done. And sometimes that 50% may come fast, sometimes that may come slow. So sometimes this is slow, but remaining 50% may be fast. So maybe first you see the traffic jam, so you're slow, but then the 50% of the journey where you had a free road, and then I mean with no traffic jam, and then you go faster, and then you basically, so average time can be changed. So that's how it is. When it bounces, maybe there is a resistance, it goes slow, and then after it picks up pace. So I follow levels, I don't follow time. um, so to me, if there is a good bounce, if it clear certain resistance, we change our stand. But at this moment, I would say probability of BTC to go down further is higher. Okay. Now we have some alts. You see API 3, which I highlighted. So you pay attention on ad hoc channel, and I'll try my best to update something which is likely to go against BTC, which will give some 10% kind of opportunity, something like something in nothing kind of situation. So keep an eye on ad hoc channel. Okay. And my plan is to open 1 hour of call every day if possible, every day. Yeah. And at different times, so it's a walking thing. And I'll try to, answer a question, highlight something. We will do some kind of a hunt kind of a call and those kind of thing. So I'll try to do my best to find something if there is a situation where BTC doesn't offer much, right? Because, but don't get disappointed. Okay. We have to be in line with our in line with the situation. We don't want to go against the wind. Okay, going against the wind is a challenge. So it doesn't mean I'm saying you short or something. Sometimes you can be sidelined, you can be, taking some short-term opportunity, which I'll be posting on ad hoc channel, right? If and it's a choice. If you and On the leverage thing, shorting and all, I can talk more about it, but briefly I will say, unless you are skillful, don't even try leverage, right? If you want to try with something which you are afford to lose, and then you will come to know whether you're skillful or not. Sometimes it's good to taste, right? I mean, um, even poison is not poisonous if you just take a little bit, right? It doesn't kill person, depends. So portion, how much portion you take. If you want to taste, you can still taste poison, right? Without hurting yourself, depends how much you take it. But if you want to taste, you will be able to taste it for sure, right? So leverage trading is like that. One has to, if you somebody thinks how it feels, how, oh, taste it, but then make sure that it doesn't hurt you, right? Financially, and then you will come to know. Correct. So I mean, simple approach. I don't think everybody should try to do the different things and have your own experience, because I'm talking from my experience. I tried to leverage everything, and I believe that there's more losing than earning, unless you are on top of it and you're very skillful. So sometimes we have to be honest about where we stand in terms of skill. Okay. So I think one side trading is much better. Long sideline, long sideline, long sideline. This is much better rather than perpetual trading where people do long short, long short, long short. Okay. So as I said, unless you're very skillful. I threw I shared some ideas, approaches. Um, yeah, feel free to ask me questions, because I'm not sure if you're interested in any other topic. But let's continue. Okay, so on monthly, see, monthly is fine. Look at this, monthly is totally fine. So monthly is not a problem. So monthly low is 36,000 something, 36,200, which is, but yeah. So if monthly is taken out, then there's a problem. So monthly is still fine. It's halfway. But yeah, if it starts going down, then that's not good. So monthly it would react late, as you could imagine. So the monthly structure is not bad. In other words, if monthly is broken, that means it's really bad, right? So when you start tracking, monthly is okay, okay, not a trouble. Weekly, a sign of correction, it clear sign of correction, a potential correction further. Daily, clear evidence or dip, and it's showing that it is now this level or support from where it got this bounce, right? It's at risk, a clear sign. So by end of day we'll have to see if it can, bounces. It is possible this is a retest of this level, and if it is, then it's a good news. You don't have to worry, but we have to be open about it, right? So that's why I'm saying we don't go by assumption, we go by levels. So for example, by end of day it closes below this, then it's a risk. If it bounces and goes up, we're fine. And when you have multiple stop losses, I'm telling you, you are in good positions. You are in good position. You can handle situation, tricky situation. So these are certain things that I wanted to highlight. Let's look at different. I'll zoom out a little bit and see other things. Yeah, I think I believe I covered everything that I wanted to. If I draw a line, I think if you look at this one, see it's following this line. So you can this is very simple. You can also draw this line on weekly. Yeah, you see. So it's not able to break above this line. So maybe you can have this line locally. So this is one way. There are different ways to look at it. Okay, so let's look at spectrum. What spectrum is saying. So spectrum clearly shows, right, that it failed. So this is okay. When I say okay means it was expected some reaction. So this is it retraced and then amazing move. But you see the whole entire move is erased. So this is a bad rejection for sure. So this particular level didn't allow BTC to break above. So even spectrum is in line and telling you that this is not good enough, right? So when you look at spectrum, you would like to see above yellow, ideally, as I said, ideally, yeah, as per spectrum, I say 50K, spectrum is saying 48K, for an example, if I round up. So maybe 48K, if it is able to stay above 48K, then there is long-term stuff. Then I'm interested in long-term. Otherwise, that's not good, because you see this yellow had rejected here, and it's up, and then if it, let's say, recovers, then it is going to react again on the yellow, I'm sure, because it reacted here the way it's going to react here as well. And if it is able to stay above the yellow, then I'm interested in long term. Okay, otherwise right now this is a clear sign that it is in trouble. Here also on a weekly, the blue has come down across, there's a crossover. That's not good. Still it's above orange, so this is not a dire situation unless it breaks below the orange and starts going for the red RT. Then there's a problem in my opinion. Yeah, it's supported here. You don't want to break below 432 on a weekly. So when you look at spectrum, look at both daily and weekly to understand what is happening, then you're good. Even so, spectrum is in line with what I said in my manual TA. So I'm happy about it. There's no discrepancy. Um, so there, another thing is, don't hope for anything. Okay, don't, you will think this guy is like a bot. You can say that. I mean, when I do trading, I'm a very human and emotional guy, personal level, but I'm really a bot when it comes to trading. Let me tell you this. I am a different person when it comes to trading, and you have to be. You will learn that you as a human cannot be the same when you are a trader. Sooner you change that, better for you being a trader. I'm telling you, you have to be ruthless, you have to be decisive. There's no scope for human emotion. So don't get me wrong when I talk about this. Don't hope for anything. Go by levels. That's it. Be a bot. If you want to win, be a bot. And there's nothing wrong about it. The human aspect has to be kept aside. You have to park somewhere when it is about trading. It doesn't help. Human emotions is one of the biggest killer or weakness, I say. And that's why I talk a lot about it. No matter what I give as part of TA, if one is not able to handle it emotionally, mentally, it's not going to fly. It's not going to work. So point is, be a bot when it comes to trading. So don't hope anything, right? Oh, don't hope. It won't help. Go by levels. It will make your life very, very, very simple and easy. I'm telling you. Just accept what is happening, not on daily, but I mean, we are not, but we are looking at a weekly, right? We are looking at weekly, not a one day. So just accept that there's weakness, accept that also are correcting, accept that also are weak, and once the BTC improves, they'll improve. At this moment, there is a more risk than the reward. Okay, then life will be good. And then, in meanwhile, as I said, I'm going to try to find opportunity, potential opportunity, and highlight on ad hoc. Right. So I think that can be a strategy. Right. As I said, personally, also I'm thinking short term, simple because BTC hasn't reached to its required level. So probably I covered everything. Um, I can stop recording here, and before we do, this is another tool that I'm developing. Don't mix up with anything, but just a preview. Is also rejecting this mid-level, which is in line with spectrum as well. So I'm happy to share at this moment. There's nothing conflicting. So point is, yeah, this is important level. So if in other words, if it breaks above 45K again, then we are back. Okay. Otherwise, assume there is a downside risk until that happens. Okay, so I'll stop the recording here. Take your question